start the recording so that we can make sure that you are going to receive the recording together with the slides and all the materials and the materials, the handouts, the recording, and the certificate of attendance. Alicia, can you say something? Can you show yourself in the screen, please? We're just checking because Alicia was here with us a moment ago, and yes, she is here.
Oh, technology, very scary. Okay,
yes.
So can I start? Yeah?
Yes, you can start. So it's all yours, and I'm going to be with you in the chat box. And so let us know if you need anything.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm really very happy to be here. I'm honored that I can deliver this webinar. It's absolutely amazing how many people from different countries are here. And I would like to invite you to to reflect and share some ideas about how to teach and learn in the face of conflict. I think we have all been facing a very challenging, difficult situations, and we as teachers have especially difficult situation because we have to cope not only with our own emotions but also with emotions of our students. And I'm sure that you are aware of the acronym VUCA. I would like to start with that because I think that we are really living in the age of chaos. This acronym was first used by military strategists and trainers who were trying to explain the change in military operations post the Cold War. But since the COVID time, I think this acronym VUCA seems to be even more apt because the only predictable thing was actually and still is unpredictability, and it is a big challenge for us. The VUCA acronym stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It was even developed into new acronym 2 years ago, where we say that it's brittle, anxiety, non-linearity, and incomprehensibility. And I think it can really describe the times we have been living now. So in this webinar and during our meeting, I would like to talk with you a little about such issues as the questions which are displayed. So we are going to talk about some emotions which we all have been experiencing and emotions our students are being experiencing, how to deal with all these emotions, how to talk to kids, how to talk to our students, because as far as I can see, we have here people and teachers from all over the Europe. So of course, mainly the problems are experienced by our friends, teachers and students in Ukraine, but also here in Poland, we have really thousands of kids, millions actually now coming to our schools, and it's also a big challenge for our students. And I guess also in many other countries, the situation is very similar. So how to integrate the Ukrainian students into our classrooms, how to talk to them, how to say if they are integrated into classroom or not. And also it's very important to think and reflect what we can do for ourselves, how to recharge, how to take care of our own resources. So I would like to begin with a little bit of question, because the situation we are all facing, as I said, has left many across the world stressed, and we have different feelings. We all think anxious, especially that coming on the back of the global pandemic, which had already devastated our mental health. I think this news of the war definitely compounded the feelings of fear and uncertainty. And I would like to ask you now, what kind of emotions you are experiencing now? The war has been lasting almost for 3 months, but there are many different emotions. So I would like to ask Grzegorz to start the poll. And if you could answer, please, what you are thinking about Ukraine, how are you feeling at the moment? There are many different emotions. They can all interchange. They can co-occur. But if you could just do it for 1 second. People may experience definitely many different emotions like anger, hopelessness, helplessness. It can be also anger, sadness, empathy, many others. I'm just wondering, what is your emotional state just now? What are you feeling? Maybe it's compassion, maybe it's anxiety. Yeah. Some people who had to leave Ukraine, it can be homesickness. Helplessness and compassion, hope. Okay, so helplessness, difficult to answer, anxiety, disappointed. Yeah, we can see a whole range of different emotions people are experiencing now. Pride, frustration. Okay, sorrow, helplessness, and anxiety probably. Can we count it now, Rishi, or not yet?
Yep, I can close it down if you like.
Okay, and can you show me the results or not? Well, I guess that anxiety is probably the major
If you click
emotion, which is
if you
usually
click
to the
on the
vote by
poll
vote.
if you click on the poll tab, you will see the numbers and the percentages. The sadness is the
Okay.
major one.
Okay, yes. Okay. Well, sadness. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. It's very important to be aware of what you are feeling now. It's also one of the elements we are going to explore during this meeting. Okay, so different emotions, and it's quite obvious that we can experience, as I said, the whole range of emotions. And usually it's anxiety. Anxiety is actually your body's natural response to stress. It's like a feeling of fear, apprehension about what's to come, but it's very much associated with also with other emotions like sadness or even anger. As I said, they can coexist and change during the time. So fear is a natural feeling that warns people of a danger and threats. And typically, we can, when we experience fear, we can react to fear in very different ways. It can be like, flight, fight. It can be waiting. It can be attack. And definitely, this situation for many of us was very frightening. So people experience lots of fear and anxiety. When we feel anxiety or fear, there are many different symptoms of anxiety. The symptoms can be noticed on many different levels. So anxiety can be seen on some somatic, physical level, and as probably everybody here has already experienced anxiety in many different situations. So when we are anxious, when we feel fear, what are the somatic manifestations of anxiety? There are many, but first of all, we feel sometimes a chest pain. You can have a stomach ache. You can have a headache, insomnia, breathlessness, many other somatic symptoms of anxiety. Very often it's also sleeplessness. It's like feelings of isolation. It's shame. It's also irritability. You can feel irritable. So it's important to know, but because when you have students in your classroom, sometimes it's difficult to say what emotions they feel. And when you see also a difference in their behavior, it can illustrate that something, or it can indicate that something is happening, that this person is going through a stress or trauma. Also, when you feel fear or anxiety, there are many psychological symptoms or symptoms of anxiety. Usually, we can observe some dissociation, some dissociative disorders. We can tell that about 3 of them: depersonalization, or sometimes called derealization, dissociation, or emotional hibernation, we call it in psychology. So this depersonalization disorder is like feeling disconnected or detached from one's body and thoughts. You can maybe think about situation when you were really anxious, now during this time of war or before, and it's like a feeling. You can feel like you are observing yourself from outside your body. So it's like being in a dream. It's like the experience of feeling unreal, detached, sometimes unable to feel emotions. It's connected with this symptom of emotional hibernation. It's a jargon word. It means that you can not to feel pain or not to feel fear. You prefer not to feel anything. So you are detached. Yes, then you are unable to feel any emotion. And it can be very misleading, because sometimes we can expect that this person is coping very well with the stress, whereas it's just this mode of hibernation. And such traumatic events as war, sometimes abuse, or some disasters, definitely they lead or they trigger the depersonalization and dissociation. And it's worth remembering and thinking about that, because sometimes, as I said, we may think that, okay, this person is coping very well with this stress and the situation because there are no other symptoms of fear. But it doesn't mean that everything is fine, because the person doesn't feel anything. So if the level of anxiety and fear is very high, it can cause also the panic attack. And panic, briefly saying, is something which disconnects us from reality. I don't know if you have ever felt panic, but I'm sure that everybody did. And there are many different symptoms of panic attack. Again, it can be like heart palpitation. It could be excessive sweating, trembling, feeling of choking. You can't breathe, during the panic attack. It can be like feeling dizzy, or you can have like chills of hot flashes, or fear of losing control, or even going crazy. And panic attacks can be triggered by just one moment, by the situation. So, and then we can't control it really very well. People with panic disorder, they can have panic attacks unexpectedly. So they can be sometimes triggered by the factor which we wouldn't associate really with something very stressful, but it can bring some memory back, and the person just can't cope with this emotion. So, and usually when we have this panic attack, or people with the panic disorder, they are absolutely unaware of possible triggers or reasons for their panic. I'm saying that because we have to remember that the situation of the war and all these difficult emotions we're all being facing sometimes bring back some memories from our past which are not strictly correlated with the war. But if somebody had a difficult situation in the past, these feelings and the war can bring back the memories, and then not unexpectedly you can have a panic attack because suddenly you remember things which happened to you like years ago, maybe in your childhood, or if you have students in our classroom which who had difficult family situation in the past, they can also experience these panic attacks. So it all brings to it all brings us to the notion of trauma. You know that situation like war is very traumatic, and we can experience a mental state, traumatic mental state, which is very difficult to deal with, because when somebody experiences trauma, it's really difficult for the person to go back to functioning like he functioned before. And then it brings post-traumatic stress disorder. So we may have very severe reaction to stress or to any difficult situation. And definitely now we can talk about post-traumatic stress disorder among many people who had to leave Ukraine. Yeah? So people who had to witness or experience some traumatic situation, or they were witnessing some violence, or some they were the victims of the personal assaults or any other things. They can suffer from post-traumatic disorder. And so generally we can tell that many Ukrainian people now, they experience refugee trauma. We know that millions of Ukrainian refugees have streamed into Europe, and many of them had to leave the loved ones behind. So the trauma activates every day, because they worry about the families they had to live in Ukraine. So many specialists say that that this trauma can cause depression. Then it can cause, of course, this post-traumatic stress disorder, and many people we will observe these symptoms probably in many months to come, because very often when people have to deal with daily problems, like find some place to live, probably put their kids into schools, or just accommodate, they don't experience this trauma. But when everything is organized, when they feel that they have already found the accommodation, that they get kids into schools, the process of healing and dealing with trauma will begin. So the big wave of need is still to come, and we can say that now many refugees are in the survival mode. So they have to adapt to their new environment, to the new situation. And it's not, for many of them, this is not the moment of starting the process of healing and dealing with the problems. So it's good to be aware that if you have any kids, any people, any students from Ukraine in your classroom, or teachers from Ukraine, you have it every day. We have to observe the students. We have to observe ourselves, because maybe some symptoms will appear in some time. So on one hand, of course, we are all very willing to help, and especially here in Poland, I think everybody knows that we have really millions of people coming, and many people try to be very helpful and be involved in different actions, different different activities to support the people from Ukraine. But what is dangerous? Very often when we help and the situation, the war is not happening where you live, because we are still very distant from the place. So it's not our war really, in a way. We can experience something which is called in psychology the survivor guilt syndrome. So should we feel guilty living a normal life? And if people are very sensitive, they can have this syndrome because they feel really empathetic. They are very sensitive to all this pain Ukrainian people are experiencing. Of course, we have to be very empathetic, but being trapped in guilt doesn't help. It doesn't help the Ukrainian people, and it doesn't help us. And it also prevents us from acting. So you have to ask yourself if probably you are not trapped in this guilt, because if you are, it's also important to remember that it doesn't bring any good. Yeah, of course, support, help, but don't feel guilty, because it won't bring any good things for anyone. And because we live in time of uncertainty, and as I said, in time of VUCA, it seems to be very important to introduce into our education something which I call anxiety education. So just how to learn to be more tolerant for uncertainty. Because, since the COVID-19 has started, I think we can't be sure of anything. And now the war, and who knows what else will we have to experience in future. So I would like you to ask the questions to yourself. What do I have influence on? Because there are things we can control, but there are also things we can't control. So how much can I take care of myself? How much I can take care of my biological state? And how much I believe in effectiveness of my action? We can't control the outcome of the conflict. We can't control the outcome of the war, but having control over things that we can change, even such things like how much news we consume or the activities we do to help, Ukrainian people or to help ourselves, will help us better retain our sense of well-being, and then we will have the feeling that we can control something. There is nothing worse than the awareness that you can't control anything. That's why it's worth to reflect how we manage our emotions, because all emotions are subject to interpretation if we verbalize them. That's why the more you talk how you feel, the better. When you translate your emotions into words, then you can better control them. The same we can do with our students. I will come back to it in a minute. And when you are very anxious, when your level of fear is very high, it's very intense, then very often we lose this ability to verbalize emotions. You can't even talk. You can't say what you feel. Then it's important to calm down, think really cognitively, use your brain, your mind, and try to find some words and name what you feel. What can be very helpful is focusing on reality. So lock into reality, because if you do something, if you keep doing what you always have been doing, if you keep doing your routine activities, it's a way of logging into reality. And also sometimes it's enough when you just focus your attention on something which is happening around you. You don't have to be you don't have to think global. Just think about what is going on here in your environment, here and now. I know it's very difficult when you are in Ukraine and you hear the bombs and you know what's going on, what's happening just a few meters from you. It's very difficult. But even in this situation, just try to, especially when you have also your own kids, try to focus on something what is happening around, small things, because kids are very sensitive to anxiety, and sometimes we are not aware how anxious they might be. So if you have students or Ukrainian students in your classroom in different countries, how to talk to students about war, even in your own country, in Ukraine, how can you talk to your students? It's not easy, especially in Ukraine, to talk about the war. But what is important, what is definitely vital and essential is your pedagogical intuition, empathy, gentleness, and tact. Teachers are very meaningful people in students' life. Sometimes we say that they are like lighthouses. We don't know what's happening in families. We don't know how parents talk about the war, and probably for many students, for many kids, the only person they can talk to is the teacher. So it's very important. And if you have students, Ukrainian students, in your classrooms in different countries, it's important to think what, except for speech, is important in the process of communication. Because sometimes we can't use words, either because we have students who don't speak their language, our native language, and you don't speak Ukrainian. Or sometimes they just don't want to talk. So we can use different things, different forms of communication, like alternative communication. We can use non-verbal communication. And it's important to just create situations which can facilitate communication. I think many of us know that kids or students, especially young kids, they can easily find ways of communicating with each other. Sometimes you go on holidays, and kids of from different countries somehow find their ways to communicate. So try to use some alternative ways. Maybe you can play the game. You can use some stories which are known for kids from all over the world. And what is really, really important, you can't make assumptions about students' experiences, because it can be very misleading. So it's better to check with students and families what they need, if they need to talk about the war, if they want to talk about the situation in the country or not. The same is in Ukraine. Sometimes you have to wait, because the students, they need to be ready. They need to be ready to talk about all this traumatic experience. What is important is building some relationships with the families, with students, just to build the trust. Because if people will trust you, then you can help. But we can't be surprised that some Ukrainian people, they don't trust, because they have already gone through such traumatic experience that they are not able to trust anyone. So you have to give them time. The same is in Ukraine. And sometimes just leave it, give them time. Maybe they will come when they want to talk. But they will talk only when they feel that they can trust you. Also, what is important, just to appreciate the strengths of your students. Try to find what are their strengths. That we try to look at positively at our students. It's a part of positive psychology, that we try to focus more on strengths than some weaknesses. But also, when we have students from Ukraine in different countries, it's good to show, allow them to be pride in their culture, and tell them how much they can contribute to the school community, how much they can add. They will feel well, that they are needed, they are valuable. So if we have a mixed group, if we have students from Ukraine in our classroom, it's also good to build a class contract. I think if we build something like a contract, it can help to regulate some situations, because the situations can be very different. Sometimes difficult situation will appear, and it's not the fault of students, neither Ukrainian students nor our students, because it's just the misunderstanding or something like that. So clear rules can be really very helpful, especially when you have a crisis situation. So prepare the contract, and then everybody should stick to the rules, and they can really be very significant for both sides. Because, you know, imagine that suddenly you are, I don't know, 9 or 10, and you find yourself in a different country, in a class full of students who speak a different language, and how can you feel? It can be really, really difficult to cope with the situation. So there are many different exercises, talking a little bit more practically, you can do, and you can apply all these exercises both in Ukraine if you work there, but also in different countries where you have students, your own students, where you want to talk about the situation which is happening now, but also when you have like people coming from Ukraine. So if you don't want to use words, because sometimes, as I said, it can be very difficult, you can ask your students to share and discuss a color. You know, just tell them that they can use color to express how they feel. They can use a symbol that represents what they are feeling at the moment. It's very simple, very easy, but can be very helpful. Because again, to acknowledge the feelings is the first step to cope with them. So many people try and dismiss their feelings by saying, oh, I'm being silly, or, you know, but you can feel anxious, you can feel upset, but it's important to acknowledge what you feel without judging. It's the first element to help. Then you can have also another exercise like asking your students to identify like 3 thoughts they have about the current situation, 2 questions they have, and they can also put 1 idea they have for moving forward the personal situation. Simple exercise, they can draw, or they can write it down in their own language, whatever you wish. Another good exercise is to use the blob tree as also a psychological tool we use for many different purposes. Again, you can ask students to identify where they are on the blob tree, and depending where they perceive they are, it will also illustrate what emotions they have being on this position. So you can ask them, why are you there? Why have you chosen this position? Or what questions do you have being on this position? You can do it with your own students. It doesn't matter what age they are. It can also be a topic for discussion if you teach English. I don't know, at secondary school or primary. They can talk about emotions, and the topic of war can be also touched. Okay, so students is one thing, but also it's important to be aware of your own emotional state. So I would like you to just ask yourself some questions. How much are you affected by the war? How do you feel? What is your stress level? How are you coping with your own stress? Are you working even more now? Are you practicing any self-care? You know, you can look at the questions. Because it's very important to answer the question, what helps you function better? Now, in stressful situations, we need lots of good energy to support our neural system and our immune system and our emotions. And even without the war, you know, being a teacher is really very challenging and sometimes very difficult to cope with all these challenges we are facing. So what do you do to charge your batteries? You can write down in our chat, maybe just to share with other people, but it's important to be aware what you do. There can be different sources of charging batteries and doing things, but in positive psychology and according to the issue of psychological capital, we have 4 sources which can have a big impact on our level of well-being. It's efficacy, hope, optimism, and resilience. I don't have enough time to discuss all these elements, but in time we are experiencing, resilience seems to be very important. You know, resilience is a process of adapting well in the face of adversity. We can say it's something like bouncing back from difficult experience. Sometimes we say that it's emotional resilience can be also called emotional agility. Again, so that you can bounce back from stressful situations, that you can deal with distress and move forward. We can't change the situation, as I said. It's really difficult, but building your own resilience can be the only thing you can do at the moment. So there are many elements which are correlated with resilience, like your attitude to life, your emotional awareness, your control of self. Social support is very important. Many other things like self-belief. Building resilience is one of the key elements. So how can you build this resilience? As I said before, acceptance of all types of emotions. All emotions are needed, believe me, even in times when we haven't faced the war. Many people try to avoid emotions. We try not to feel something which is difficult, but avoidance doesn't bring any good, you know, because we invest more energy into avoiding this emotion rather than facing them. All emotions are important, and again, you have to be absolutely aware what you feel and to take proper care of yourself, because if you don't take care, you won't be able to help anybody else. So engaging in some positive, healthy activities, even if it's a small thing, just a really small thing, like, I don't know, having a cup of tea or coffee and practicing a little bit of mindfulness can be useful. Stay connected, so spending or being in touch with people who give you a sense of security, a sense of happiness, or those who understand what you are feeling. Another good exercise, also not only for yourself but also for students, is creating some magic moments in the classroom. It's just a simple way to bring more magic into classroom when you invite students to think and share the magic moments in their life. The same, we can do the same as teachers. Just think about like magic moment in your life. How you felt, what was it? It's a good way to bring back the feelings you had when you experienced this magic moment. And when you in your imagination, you can do anything. You can then experience, or rather re-experience this magic moment. You can step back into this memory. Oh, sorry, in this direction. So another thing is just to learn something more about your fear. It's one of the NLP exercise, a neuroprogramming exercise. Just try to visualize your fear and give him some features. So what features does it have? Is it big? Is it small? And try to find a metaphor to describe your fear. I just put an example here that you can perceive your fear as if it was your younger brother you can control. So when you understand it, when you know that you can control it, you can change it, yeah. Because only by understanding your fear, you can change your reaction to it. We can't change the reality, we can't change the situation, but we can change our reaction to it. Another good exercise is just to creating a jar where you just put some slips of paper, first of all with your fears, the same you can do in the classroom, and then with some strategies, how you deal with fears, and put it there. Of course, all these breathing exercises can be very, very good. They are connected again with practicing mindfulness, but breathing can help, because then you put your body into the different emotional state. Sticking to your routines, I said before, like, it's better when you follow a schedule, because then you think that nothing oppressive is happening. And of course, limit media exposure, because very often we were so much, connected to media. We call it like doom scrolling, that you can't, you constantly, you search for some information. You search for some negative narration. And also, when you are stressed and you have a high level of anxiety, very often we go into so-called cognitive traps, or thinking traps. There are many of them. One of them is like black and white thinking. So you're assuming everything is perfect or wonderful, everything is terrible, and you can't see anything between. Another one is catastrophic thinking, expecting the worst possible outcome and believing that you won't cope with that outcome when it occurs. Of course, that we are all afraid of nuclear war, and of course there is possibility of nuclear war, but there is no great likelihood that that will happen now. So catastrophic thinking, like what if, can activate negative spiral, and again it will increase the level of anxiety. Predicting the future, like imagining what will happen far into the future. I won't be able to go back, I won't be able to talk to anybody. So it's also very negative. So when you want to avoid these traps, cognitive traps, first of all, it's good to notice when you are spiraling into trap. Then you might start feeling sad, sometimes panicky or hopeless. So you have to catch this thought and ask yourself question: what is thought for? Is it good for me or not? Be more realistic and holistic about your thoughts. So you can ask yourself or talk with a trusted friend or family member what's real and not real about your thoughts. Are you missing something in between? Or be more realistic. Or using just a coping mantra. I have been practicing for years. Come with the phrase to help you answer your words. You might try, I'm doing the best I can and I'm going to be okay. Sometimes just the mantra can help you to get rid of these thoughts which are very, very negative, and those which can lead you to panic attack. There are many activities and many practices which are derived from positive psychology. Probably one of them, because it's quite known, it's like keeping a gratitude journal. That even when you are in such a situation, try to write every day a thank you note. What you are grateful for. Even small children can benefit from practicing a gratitude. So either in a notebook or a journal, you can jot down 3 things you enjoyed during the day, or you are grateful for during the day. Even a very, very small thing like having a snack, or spending some time with a pet, or seeing something. So it can reframe your way of thinking. So focus on a silver lining for the day. I know that it's sometimes very, very difficult, but there is a lot of research which confirms that practicing gratitude can definitely change our thinking. Even people suffering from depression were feeling much better after 1 month of practicing gratitude. You can tell that it's difficult to be grateful when you see what's going on, what's happening around us. But still, there are small things in our families or among friends we can be grateful for. So also writing a thank you note, text or email, it can be very helpful when you feel more connected to other people in your life. Maybe you would have never written a thank you email to somebody, but now there is a moment where you can reflect on meaningful, significant people in your life, and probably this is the moment when you can send an email saying thank you. Again, research has shown that even small gestures like this can have a very, very significant impact on well-being. It also allows us to focus on what you appreciate about another person, which can bring you also satisfaction and happiness. So, like making gratitude a daily habit. Because we live in times when people are not really very grateful. We are very, very demanding. We in our Western world is very demanding, but we are not seeing all positive things which are happening in our life, and also engage in some behavioral activation. So it means that you can do something very concrete. Um, it can be like physical activity, it can be exercise, something which will give you again the control and action. It can be like a very concrete help to people from Ukraine. So helping people is something very, very concrete, and you have control of it. So another thing which is important. So also like taking care of what you eat, moving your body, getting plenty of sleep, different things which you can focus on. So all these elements will help you to protect your mental health, and it's better if you do something really concrete, if you spend some time outdoors rather than you doom scrolling the news, or you watch TV, or you read all the news in social media. And also spending time with people you really love, who are important with you, and practicing some meditation or some mindfulness are also very, very helpful in this time. So coming back to our students, we need to give our students some space to share their thoughts. We have to accept their feelings, their experiences. It also refers to our own children. If you have kids at home, you have to remember that that it's important for them also to talk about what they feel. And it would be very different with young kids. It will be different with teenagers. But all of them need to be accepted, to feel safe, and it's our role as teachers to give the sense of safety to our students. There are many different things you can do in your home. Sometimes, if the situation is really very difficult and you know that you can't absolutely deal with these emotions you are experiencing, or the thoughts you have, then you have to ask for help. Because sometimes we are afraid and we don't want to ask for help because you feel that maybe it's not that bad and maybe you can cope yourself. It's better to ask, to call somebody else, or even ask for some therapeutic support, because it can be too late. And you never know what your students is thinking. If you have any symptoms which can be dangerous or different, or the person behaves differently from usual situation, it can be the sign that something is happening. Very important to remember. So all activities that bring us down or lift us up, all these nurturing activities are very, very important. And practicing, meditation can be helpful. But what, for me personally, what really helps and what I find probably most important is taking care of relationships, positive relationships. Look, when we are all together, it feels different. When you meet with somebody else, you can talk your fears, anxieties through, you can share, then you feel much better. Positive relationships are really, really important in our life. And so maybe sometimes it's just to make a phone call, to talk to somebody you haven't talked for a while, or maybe there is a chance that you can meet with somebody you haven't seen for a while. It will give you a sense of connectedness, but also it will give us the sense that you are not alone in this situation, especially with people who are experiencing it in Ukraine. Of course, music can help. listening to music, reading some positive stories. Also, there are Professor Amit Bernstein prepared a special program, mindfulness-based trauma recovery. Here's the link there where you can find lots of different exercises you can use to practice mindfulness and self-compassion. Self-compassion is something also very important. Just be kind and good to yourself. Self-compassion doesn't mean that you are not empathetic with other people, but if you want to be empathetic with others, you have to be empathetic also with yourself. So you can find some exercises here which are quite helpful. You can use also when you work with students. I am very much involved in process drama, and I find drama very useful when I have to talk about some difficult issues. So process drama is also something you can use if you want to talk in more metaphorical, symbolic way about the war, about all these stresses, about the oppression, because then you actually you explore the issue, difficult issue, but you do it in a distant way. So students feel definitely safe. Drama gives you a sort of umbrella of safety, that we create a situation, symbolic situation, but then we can explore our own problems. So also the storytelling, different storytelling can be very useful. So many different things. Of course, I can't explore all possibilities, but I'm just thinking that it depends on the situation you are in, what you will choose. But I would like, just to finish, I would like to invite you for a short exercise, visualization exercise, if you don't mind. Just to calm down a little bit. Okay, so can you please sit comfortably? All these things like retreat to the garden, walk the dogs, going to the forest, everything works, yoga or doing exercises. Okay, so please find just 3 minutes for yourself now. So sit comfortably and become aware of your breathing. Just follow your breathing. Breathe in and out without influencing anything, just like waves at beach. Come and go, come back in great harmony. And now I would like you to remember a situation in your life where someone loved you unconditionally, and accept whatever situation comes to your mind. And I would like you to focus in the situations on this aspect of unconditional love. So it's okay to leave aside any other aspects of this situation and enjoy now just the unconditional love from someone. And with every breath, activate more and more this memory and allow yourself to feel the positive energy of this situation in your body now again. Someone is loving you just how you are. Breathing now with these feelings, bathing in them, resisting in the warm radiance of his or her heart, felt embracing of you just as you are. Feel unconditional love. And now I would like you to look at this other person who is loving you so unconditionally in this situation. How does he or she look like right now? And if this person would say anything, how would his or her voice sound? And if you would see any small movement in his or her body, her face, hands, just accept what you see. And now I would like you flow out of your body right into the body of this person who loves you. And now if you look through his or her eyes, how do you see you that this person sees? So how do you see the you that this person sees? What does this person see in you? What does she or he love in you? And please enjoy and experience this view now with every breath you take. Just like waves at the beach, come and go and come back in great harmony. See the way she sees in this situation where he or she feels unconditional love for you. And now take this feeling with you and float back in your actual body, in here and now. And I would like you to enjoy these feelings now in your actual body. And also be aware where in your body can you feel what this person sees in you. And now I would like you to flow out of your body into so-called meta position. So you're outside from yourself and outside from the other person. Where in this meta position, you will experience different emotions. You can see yourself and you can see this person. So maybe you can see something important for both of you, for both positions. And maybe you just enjoy to see both of you from outside for a short moment now. And now please flow back again in your body. And just acknowledge your feelings. How are you feeling now? How does it influence your breathing and your state of mind? Okay. All right. So I am aware that, especially all teachers who are now in Ukraine, it's very difficult, to do any exercises. But believe me, even in this horrid, oppressive situation, if you don't acknowledge your emotions and you don't express them, you can't do anything. So just the best thing we can all do is taking care of ourselves and taking care of people we are close to. So our families and students we are working with. So I hope that some of these exercises will be helpful. Of course, we can do many other things. You can do whatever you like, whatever you enjoy, whatever is good for you, you can do it. It's your choice. But you can use, like, as I said, some storytelling, some metaphors, some symbols, some colors. You can create different things which help us to communicate in different than verbal way. Okay, so I hope it was at least a little bit helpful. Thank you very much for joining, for writing, and being active in the chat box. I couldn't follow it, but I hope that you could share between yourself many great ideas, which will be helpful for everyone. Thank you very much for being here and for listening to us. Thanks a lot.
And I would like to thank you very much, Alicia, for this webinar, for this excellent, calming, soothing pieces of advice. And looking at the comments, I cannot agree more. Thank you very much for delivering it to us. And to all those of you who were there, I would like to thank you very much for your active participation. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer the questions, but soon. Alicia wrote also the article for us, which is going to be published on the blog. So stay with us, go to OUP Facebook and blog, and you will be able to read some afterthoughts after this webinar. So thank you very much as well. Wait for the recording together with the slides, just to take care of yourselves and stay strong. Slava Ukraini, what can I say as well? Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.